As you know, today is Juneteenth, the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. And oftentimes people say, well, how does music or jazz relate to freedom? And so what I did was pull some quotes from some of our jazz musicians. But before I get started, I would like to bring up Reverend Joe to give a prayer. And then I'll be talking to you. Come on up, Reverend Joe. Give you the quotes. And then Bootsie Barnes and I are going to talk for a few minutes about jazz in Philadelphia and his career. And then I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. First, I'd like to thank God for being here, be with a legend in jazz, and be with you. And sad notice, we're still not free. Some people didn't get the word. I don't know what will it take to make everybody make a stand. We got to. If some of us are free and versus are not, all of us are not free. We got to fight. The fight's not over. The game was being played, and we left at halftime. It wasn't over with. So we've got to fight. Thank you, Dr. Turner, for doing this here. And this is a really holiday. We really ought to be, now this one we ought to be in the street shouting and jumping up this day, not 4th of July.
All right.
It had nothing to do with us. Amen. I tell the people in the church, red, white, and blue had nothing to do with you. Amen. All right, that's it. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for Dr. Turner. Thank you for the Blockson collection. Thank you for this day. And we thank you that you are still God and God all by yourself. Help us to remember when we can't, God can, and when we won't, God will. Thank you for this, we thank you for that, and we thank you for the other. Amen.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Dr. Blockson sends his regards. He couldn't be here today, but he loves Bootsie. They're both Sagittarians, so he said they are cut from the same cloth. So I just wanted to read a couple of quotes, starting out with Frederick Douglass, and this is what he says, because you know, when you talk about jazz, we're talking about the evolution of black music, okay? And so this is what he says, quote, "I did not, when a slave, understand the deep meaning of those rude and apparently incoherent songs. I was myself within the circle, so that I neither saw nor heard as those without might see and hear. They told a tale of woe, which was then altogether beyond my feeble comprehension. They were tones loud, long, and deep. They breathed the prayer and complaint of souls, boiling over with the bitterest anguish. Every tone was a testament against slavery and a prayer to God for the deliverance from chains. I have heard sometimes thought that the mere hearing of those songs would do more to impress some minds with the horrible character of slavery than the reading of whole volumes of philosophy on the subject could do." Next, I'd like to read Paul Robeson. He says, "I've learned that my people are not the only ones oppressed. I have sung my songs all over the world and everywhere found that some common bond makes the people of all lands take to Negro songs as their own." That's what Paul Robeson said. Maya Angelou says, "Music was my refuge. I could crawl into a space between the notes and curl my back to loneliness." And Wynton Marsalis says, "Democracy, libertarian democracy, our form of democracy deals with the power of the individual. How that power of that individual can be used in combination with other individuals, the diversity of federal power and states' power, the one and the many always going against each other. That's what jazz is. I solo, you accompany me. You solo, I accompany you. There's a lot of choice in it, Wynton Marsalis. And last but not least, Louis Armstrong says, what we play is life. Okay? So on that note, I'm going to have a conversation with Bootsie. And I'd like to thank Homer Jackson, who is not here yet. I hope he comes. But this program was actually made possible through support of the Philadelphia Fund for Jazz Legacy and Innovation of the Philadelphia Foundation and Painted Bride. So Bootsie's very dear to me. And when you talk about treasures in Philadelphia, truly he is one. And him and I were going through a little bit. He wanted to play first, so I'm going to make this quick. But Bootsie, can you talk about how you got started in jazz?
How I got started. I guess about, I was about 10 years old, and had a cousin that played with Duke Ellington. And we used to go down to the Earl Theater, and I just loved that band. And when the curtains opened, they were playing Things Ain't What They Used to Be. You remember all that, don't you, Ken? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And I always loved the music, and I always kept up with the other music also, you know, like the Orioles and the Drifters and all that. But jazz has always been in my heart since I was about 10 years old. So I sort of stayed on top of things. Every year, I think it's once a year, on Thanksgiving or Christmas time, they always had shows at the Earl Theater, and they always had Lionel Hampton or either Duke Ellington, and they had tap dancers, and they had singers. It'd either be Dinah Washington or Billie Holiday, and for dancers, they'd have Reds and Curly or either Pearl Bailey's brother, Bill Bailey, dancing. So you got to see a complete act. It's not like you go to see these groups today. It's 9 different groups up there. Everybody's rapping and doing this. You saw a complete show back in the day, and I fell in love with the music then, and I met Duke Ellington when I was a little fella, Johnny Hodges, and all the fellas in the band. And I just kept it going throughout the years. Couldn't stop. You can't stop the bop.
Who were your influences?
My first influences was when I heard, I think it was Ornette Cobb playing Flying Home with Lionel Hampton. And he walked out into the audience and all out to Market Street and came back down the aisle, and everybody was following him and just went crazy. And ever since then, Lionel Hampton put that solo, had it written out for every horn player that ever had to go through that band had to play that same solo. That was my first influence, Illinois Jacket.
Okay, you mentioned the Earl Theater. Can you recall some of the other music venues here in Philadelphia where you could hear live jazz?
Well, I was kind of young, but right 2 doors down from there, a few doors down, they had a place called the Downbeat. It was up on the 2nd floor, and I couldn't get in there. I could only look in there, you know, look upstairs, but I couldn't, you know, you could hear it, but you couldn't see anything. But also they had, I mean, you know, Showboat and Peps. As I got older, I could get in those clubs. And it was clubs all over. All the neighborhoods had bars, had jazz in them. But they would only advertise like Showboat and Peps, and a few of them, there was, you know, 5-star places. But every neighborhood had jazz, all of Philadelphia, North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, Frankfurt. And you could hear it on the weekends.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit about how you know Bill Cosby and also the gigs you had with him?
Well, we met, I guess, in 1943. So you know how old I am now. But he was like, he was always like 4 months older than me. You know, every birthday, I'm older than you. I caught up with you, you know what I mean? But we met in elementary school in the first grade. And we lived a block apart. And Summers, Skeets, one of the guys from the neighborhood, we all come up. But for the first 6 years, until we got out of junior high school, then we split up, and we saw each other periodically, and then I started seeing him on television and all that, and then we hooked up again in 1990, and we've been together ever since. At least once a year, twice a year I see him.
Two places I'd like you to talk about. Your tenure at TNT Monroe's, if you would talk a little bit about that, and then if you would talk about your tenure at Ortlieb's.
TNT Monroe's was a club at 15th and Arch, and was ran by a great bass player named Tommy Monroe, but he couldn't make enough money playing the bass, so he started promoting. And he took a job with a beer company, I think it was Smith's, down the 2nd and Dryde Avenue, and made a career down there and promoted in between. And he was the first one to promote John Coltrane, Lee Morgan, all of them, Sarah Vaughan, all of them in concerts. That's how he made his money. And he took his whole life savings and retired from the Smiths, and he bought TNT Monroe's at 15th and Arch, 1985. He always promised me if he got a spot, I'd be the house band. I was. And it lasted about 4 years. We started off on a Monday night, and it got so packed we had to go to Tuesday, then to Wednesday. We worked 3 nights a week. And we always brought in one of the young stars from New York City, marquee name, to play along with the band. And it was a wonderful experience. And I can't begin to tell you all the people that played there. The building is still there. The memories lives on. The melody's gone. The song is ended. But the melody lingers on.
What about Ortlieb's?
A lot of people can talk about Ortlieb's. I think that tenure ended. When did it end? Last year. From 1987 to I don't know. It's about Pete's reign. 2000. That was it. And everybody worked at Ortlieb's, and Shirley Scott worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we would play there maybe once a month with the Smoking Quintet. And then I wound up doing every Wednesday night for 10 years, and it was packed every Wednesday for 10 years. And the place was packed every weekend for 10 years. So jazz is not dead. We just need more venues. Thank you.
Okay. Bootsie and I were talking, and I sent him a picture, and in it, it's from the John W. Mosley collection. One of the rich collections we have here is the John W. Mosley collection. We have over 200,000 photographs and negatives. And this particular picture has Dizzy Gillespie and Cat Anderson in it. And Bootsie identified Cat Anderson, so I wanted him to end the interview talking about his recollection or memories about Cat Anderson.
He's one of the great trumpet players that played with Duke Ellington, alongside Ray Nance. And Cat was sort of like a laid-back guy. He was with the band for about 25 years. And Duke was having some problems. Then Johnny Hodges would leave, then he would come back. Different guys would leave and come back. And I met Cat Anderson the second time when he was living out West Philly for a little while. And we were playing at a place called Johnny Drew's, 52nd and Master. Now, Johnny Drew was a little sort of rich kid, black kid. His father owned the Red Arrow line, which was out in Upper Darby. That's the transit line. Back then they had buses. And he sold the Red Arrow line and invested. One investment was in his son, Johnny Drew, who was a pretty fair trumpet player. And he played with Tommy Monroe's band also, a lot of them. But he held on to the club as long as he could, Drew's Rendezvous, because he was cheap. That's why he held on to it as long. And we would jam all night for nothing. He hated to pay. And Cat Anderson was in there like 2 nights a week when he wasn't playing with Duke. And they would argue all the time. And Cat said, I don't need this. I'll go back with Duke first. Duke paid more money than you do. But anyway, he was a wonderful man. He was sort of like I think it was West Indian descent, or by way of South Carolina Geechee, something like that. Because they say, don't bother me, man. Don't bother me, man. You get out my face, man. I'd hurt you. He said, and we're talking about Duke Ellington. When you going back with Duke Ellington, you're going to go back with Duke Ellington? Yeah, I ain't going back with Duke. But when I go back, he's going to pay me $100 a night. And that was big money. That was unheard of. Because those guys in that band back then was making maybe $100 for the whole week. And they had to travel all over the world, all over the United States, buses, and so forth and so on. And they had to stay on the buses, because they couldn't go and eat, so forth. So it was really hard for me. So that's my experience with Cat Anderson. Don't mess with it, me man.
Okay, I know everyone's anxious to hear the music, but I have one more thing. Bootsie, I'd like to give you a certificate of appreciation in celebration of your contributions to democracy through your longtime commitment to the performance, creation, preservation, and promotion of America's classical music, jazz. And it contains a quote by Duke Ellington. It says, "Jazz is a good barometer of freedom. In its beginning, the United States of America spawned certain ideals of freedom and independence through which, eventually, jazz was evolved. And the music is so free that many people say it is the only unhindered expression of complete freedom yet produced in this country." So Bootsie, thank you. And with it, I'm including some images of Duke Ellington at the Earl for you to add to your collection. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everybody that made this surprise again. We're gonna do what we do best now. I was totally out of it when she waited till all these people got in here, all you wonderful people, and said, oh, no, we're gonna do the interview first, because I hate interviews. I do. I did not want to do it, but I couldn't back out. I hate them. So this is what we do best. This is our music. Forget about that rap and all that. This is the music. We don't know what we're gonna play. We have an idea, but this is what jazz is about. I'm gonna call a tune and we're just gonna play. We don't know how we're gonna end the tune, but we're gonna end it. It's a little chemistry that is happening with jazz. You know, I haven't seen him in a week. Justin Faulkner, John Swan, I haven't seen him in a week. I haven't seen him in a month. But we're gonna play some of the music of us, and also some of the great musicians that has left us recently. We're gonna play something by Horace Silver, whom we just found out passed away yesterday, one of our great jazz musicians. So a little tribute to a lot of the musicians from Philly and around the world. Bobby Timmons and Cal Massey, we're gonna play something by him. Okay, so here we go. We don't know what we're gonna do yet. Jimmy Oliver called up Jimmy Heath one day, and Jimmy Heath told him, said, man, my wife is pregnant. So Jimmy Oliver said, oh, little gingerbread boy. So Jimmy Heath wrote this tune called Gingerbread Boy. Hello? The youngster that showed me how to work this mic. Justin Falcon, the youngest one in the band, the youngest member of the band. Yeah. I've been watching him ever since he was a little guy. And he's all over the place. He's playing with Branford Marcellus. He's been all over the world. And we're very proud of him right here. Homegrown. Justin Falcon. And on the organ right here is a fellow that's been around us for the last 30, 35 years, Dan Costello, that comes from North Jersey. And he gives it all he's got. Knows all the music, everybody's music, hard, silver music, everybody. It's incredible. And we'd like to welcome him here today also. And my sidekick, we did about 4 albums together or more. We've been playing together over 30 years. John Swanner, one of the greatest. He has another instrument here tonight. You got to hear this. You won't believe what you're hearing. But right now, we're gonna do a little tribute to our fallen comrade, the wonderful Horace Silver. This is the tune entitled Enchantment. We hope you like this. This tune, written by Lee Morgan. What we're doing right here. The name of this tune is Party Time. Everybody know that one. That's the favorite, right? Who knows the name of it? What's the name of it? Central Park West. Who wrote it? John Coltrane. It don't come no more beautiful than that.
Wasn't that great? Now, isn't that music about freedom and democracy?